Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about Mars, yes, the one that's really far away. Anyway, Director Sanders had to gather all the experts to save the plan, even though it would take 9 months just to build a simple animal house. He was getting frustrated because no one knew how long Mark could hold out. If they didn't come up with a plan soon, it would be game over. Unlike NASA's tense vibe, Mark was relaxed, standing on his first batch of natural Martian radishes at his farm. Now that he solved the food issue, Mark had a wild idea pop into his head. Why not reach out to Earth? He figured that the 1997 Pathfinder spacecraft might still be kicking around on Mars. If the communication system was still functional, maybe he could reach Earth. The tech director Vin seemed to catch on to this Mars farmer's scheme after looking at Mark's rover's journey. He quickly gathered the tech team from the Pathfinder project and dug out this vintage piece of machinery that looked like a relic. Once Mark powered up the rover's communicator, the Earth equipment would pick up the signals. Two worlds 140 million km apart strive to close in like lovers on a date. On one side was the hope of billions, and on the other a lone survival story. The space rescue was officially in motion. Because the communicator only sent static images, they had to figure out a more efficient way to communicate. Luckily, Mark found a butter's notebook in a storage box with some of the codes. Mark knew Earth was attempting to rescue him. He also modified Pathfinder's systems successfully. This allowed him to send and receive real-time messages through his computer. NASA seized the opportunity to broadcast this historical moment live globally to reassure everyone. But a twist happened that left Director Sanders completely blind. When Mark learned NASA hid his survival from his crew, he reacted explosively, cursing in front of millions. Even the translator was overwhelmed. The global audience was furious, and even the president called to inquire about the situation. Under pressure, Sanders had to break the news to the crew of Hermes. Mark was indeed alive. The news of Mark's survival shocked Commander Lewis. He thought if it were an accident, maybe I'd accept that, but the truth is, Mark had been left on Mars by him personally, and that feeling was almost like committing murder. Meanwhile, Mark was on his Martian farm, excitedly teaching everyone on camera how to grow potatoes on Mars, step by step. But just when everything seemed to be going according to plan, the giant contraption had hit its limits. The airlock suddenly exploded, sending Mark flying to the ground, and to make things worse, the explosion exposed his potato greenhouse to the freezing Martian air. Everything happened rapidly, turning potato seedlings into ice statues instantly. Mark's Martian farm was destroyed, forcing him to seek shelter in the rover. But now, the biggest problem was there were no resources left to build a second greenhouse. In other words, starvation was knocking on his door again. The usually optimistic Mark showed his first signs of despair in front of a camera, and NASA was also facing a crisis. According to calculations, Mark's current food supply, even if rationed, wouldn't last until the rescue rocket arrived on Mars. Director Sanders pressured Chief Engineer Bruce again, demanding a timeline reduction on the already compressed rocket production schedule. The two had a heated argument over the phone. Bruce insisted it was nearly impossible, while Sanders was adamant. This wasn't just about one astronaut anymore, it was about the reputation of all America. To catch up, Bruce had to streamline the rocket testing procedures. Results were predictable. The rocket launched smoothly, but its trajectory went seriously off course. It even exploded while passing through the atmosphere. Everything Mark had went up in smoke. But Mark had forgiven Louis. After all, who could have predicted that he would make it back to Earth? His words showed love for life and understanding for teammates. But when the West seemed powerless, the Chinese Space Agency offered help. Not for political reasons, but out of a common understanding of humanity's shared fate, they handed over the boosters. Subtitles. Precisely in order to tackle the issue from a space exploration standpoint, we need to find an excellent approach, launching extremely high rockets. The super rocket embodies Eastern wisdom and will be crucial to the rescue operation. Its enormous carrying capacity could not only provide ample supplies, but also support NASA's spacecraft. At the same time, a young NASA physicist proposed a bold plan, not to slow the spaceship for Earth return. They should use Earth's gravity to speed up and dock for supplies with the Chinese rockets en route. Then head straight for Mars, saving time while bringing Mark home in one go. However, Sanders felt this was too risky. not realizing that the astronauts on board would stage a mutiny after hearing this news. They returned to the remote control system and forcefully altered the course of the Hermes. They knew what it meant. Disobeying meant mutiny, facing jail on Earth. Yet they still made this daring choice because they knew that if they were trapped on Mars, Mark would do the same without hesitation. The daring choice sent shockwaves across Earth. It was not just a challenge to bureaucracy, but the highest tribute to the value of life. Sanders faced reality, urgently contacted China's space agency, and leaders of both nations quickly agreed. Soon, the Chinese super rocket soared into the sky from the eastern coastline. This was not just a challenge to bureaucracy, it was the highest tribute to the value of life. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel for more Mars adventures.